So yeah, we'd love to welcome Cornelius to the stage.
Hi
Hey,
everyone.
how's it going? You're on the move.
All is good. I'm sorry that I'm late,
No,
but
no,
we have
you're not
to.
late. We're early. So
Okay, good.
where are you at?
Yeah, I'm in the farm right now, just coming from shipping.
Where the
Give me a
magic happens?
give me a second. Oh. So now I'm ready.
There we go. Nice view.
Thank you. I love it. Hi Matt.
Hey,
Hello.
Matt. So we also have the pleasure to have Matt Halfhill, the founder of Nice Kicks. Hey, Matt. Welcome to Around.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Hey, guys. So, well, it would be great to start with a short introduction from you. So, Cornelius, if you want to get started.
Sure. Hi, I'm Cornelius. Started Zellerfeld 8 years ago in my student dorm, mostly because I was super frustrated with how shoes were always the same silhouettes, no innovation, and at the same time, always seeing, super, how can I say, passionate designers just designing, in my opinion, the most beautiful shoes I've ever seen, but they never found somehow its way to realization. So back then I was studying engineering, so I thought maybe we can help here a little bit, uh, get the upfront costs down in production, so everyone can basically make shoes. And I saw 3D printing as a great opportunity, which I also fell in love with at that time. So started printing shoes for all sorts of designers on Instagram. Over time, it grew and grew. More like famous celebrities joined, more brands joined, and now I think I have the best job in the world because every day I'm seeing new shoes being made, which I really adore, from designers that I adore or brands that I adore. And yeah, now over time, my purpose has become getting printed shoes on every foot in the world.
Thanks, Matt.
Yes, my name is Matt Halfhill, founder and CEO of Nice Kicks. Started the company almost 23 years ago, and initially started doing early e-commerce and then transitioned into blogging and media coverage about shoes. But that's, through our history, we've done a lot of things as well. Done, other forms of retail, brick and mortar, done collaborations with a number of footwear brands. And currently we do a lot of marketing and consulting with footwear companies.
Great. And so, and Matt and Cornelius, you have a history together, right?
We do. Yes, I was working with Zellerfeld last year and got to see the farm in person, as well as spend time with Cornelius and see what is being built here by Zellerfeld, which I think is one of the most exciting things I've seen in footwear for quite some time.
Yeah, 100%. And so, it would be great to start off by just getting your guys's vision of where do you see this going, like the future of 3D printing, the future of footwear manufacturing, because I would love to start with the future so that we can take a few steps back and understand how is that actually going to happen. So yeah, if you guys want to like just elaborate on that.
Who shall start, Matt? You want to start?
Yeah, you want to start?
Okay, yeah. Sure. So, I mean, as I'm sitting here in a room of 200 printers, so the cool thing is, when I started 8 years ago, almost no footwear designer was able to basically 3D model shoes, or like get their shoes into a 3D model, which was obviously the first step of like really getting printed shoes on every foot. And like that was actually a huge challenge. Like when I talked with all of my idols, like they just knew how to do blackline drawings. And then on the other hand, there were some 3D modelers that were really good in like quite complicated programs like Blender or I don't know, ZBrush and stuff like that. And that was actually a huge challenge, because those that were good in 3D modeling often were not good in footwear design, or they had no idea of what makes a good shoe. And especially since footwear design often depends also on like drawing on the last and stuff like that. I think that was probably one of the biggest hurdles that needed to be taken. And like 3 or 4 years ago, when the pandemic started, and this is also the main reason why I really wanted to be in this chat here, and why like usually I don't say yes to like lots of opportunities like this, but like what I saw is I met a couple of more and more people, more and more footwear designers that, because they were often frustrated with how complicated those 3D like those traditional 3D programs were, they were all switching to Gravity Sketch. And then we had that issue of like, okay, in the early days of Gravity Sketch, there weren't so many features. So we were already much farther in terms of like getting there, but the features just weren't there. And over time, obviously, you guys delivered great on that. And now what we have is really a community of, like, we work now with thousands of designers that send us 3D models. Actually, like, we have built up like some design guidelines, and which basically govern like what you have to make sure so that the shoe is functional and printable. And now every day we get like, I don't know, 3 or 5 design submissions currently. And like then the next day they are printed. And this is, I think, the most exciting stuff, because like at that pace of people submitting designs, like obviously it's also like exponential. And I really like, what I love seeing as well with what I started in the intro. Now all of a sudden, way more interesting designs happen. Right now, often still the best sellers are like looking a little bit more traditional, like maybe some look like some Vans knockoffs, some look like they have traditional silhouettes. But I'm so certain that at some point this will switch, where really crazy silhouettes will start to become more and more common. And this is what I'm in for. Like, I'm not in for just having like, I don't know, a New Balance knockoff. I'm in for, I don't know, like really the stuff that people would like, just like, I love what happened when streaming started in music. Like really the people that love and find their niches, and then like the long tail market. I think that's what's really exciting to us. And I think the market will just become much more interested, because like shoes will be much more differentiated. So, and just like how people's tastes are, right? Like everybody has a different preference. Probably they also have a different preference in shoes, and right now it's not really being catered towards that. So by just giving, like, broadening the offering, I think many more people will find themselves in a certain style or silhouette that might not exist yet. And that is very exciting. The biggest challenge is that I see, everybody loves those printed shoes, and they get better, and the materials get better, and like that's not the issue. The issue is the scaling. Like I don't know, right now, like we had a huge breakthrough in material science lately, which helps now that our success rate is much higher. We can ship now almost every pair we print. That was not always the case, and the speed is much faster. But like those printers here, maybe they make like 70 to 80 pairs per day right now. Like very soon they will be at 200 pairs a day. I don't know, over the next 6 months. So growth rates are still really great, but like, what are 200 pairs a day? Like Matt will laugh at this, knowing the industry, which will be like I don't know what Nike makes. I think like 5 million pairs a day or 4 million pairs a day. So like, yeah, that's the biggest issue, I believe. Like printed shoes can be better fit, better looking, like better in every way, but we need to pump more shoes out. That would be my take on it.
Matt,
But I would
you have
be
any
a
thoughts?
outsider.
Yeah, I mean, so the way that a shoe looks since the dawn of time and since the very first sneakers that were ever created, were dictated largely by what materials and manufacturing methods were available at the time. And we've seen the way that shoes and sneakers have evolved through time have come in. There have been pretty big stages where things changed. Vulcanized rubber outsole was a very big change when they could attach a vulcanized rubber outsole to a canvas upper. Huge breakthrough. We actually saw, further to complement something that Cornelius brought up about people going towards a more traditional looking shoe. Sometimes that actually the very first shoes like that, one of them was called the Circular Vamp Oxford. So they took basically the Oxford style derby shoe, leather shoe, made a canvas version of it in some of the earliest known sneakers. So this is the very common thing that we see, is that even though there's new innovations and new ways shoes can look, the market still wants to make them look like they were familiar with before. But as through time, the introduction of the rubber cup sole changed the way that shoes looked again. And then, all throughout, the 80s and 90s, when you had different ways of being able to manufacture outsoles and midsole foam, changed the way shoes are. But this, I think that, the 3D printing is going to really, accelerate the way that a shoe can look, because you're dealing with materials in not a reductive method, but you're able to print and form shapes that just were never before possible. But at the same time, to get the adoption with the marketplace, there will be a little bit of a learning curve for the market. There's going to have to be some models that probably look more like what the market is used to get them to buy in, to get them to try on the shoes, to feel how great this material is and where things can be. And I think that is kind of what we will see with time in this space.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, Matt, and connected to what you're saying, Cornelius, about when you started, it was almost, and it's funny because Gravity Sketch started in a similar way. We saw the 3D printing movement happening, and we realized that it wasn't really going to happen unless tools got any easier. And so it's really amazing to hear you say, Cornelius, what you just said, because it's like, yeah, we're actually helping people to actually to get there.
No,
but
heavily, because like really, and back in the day, there were lots of footwear designers, like their desire to make their own shoes and put them on their own feet, like just as a hobby project. That desire was always there, but like the bridging the gap is so much harder if they need to learn a design program that takes them 2 years to master before they can do it. Like that is just like they have a life outside of footwear in the most cases, and like they're like, no, I can't do that. And what I saw when the pandemic started was like everybody, like the adoption of Gravity Sketch started, and all of a sudden those 2 years to master Blender fell down to like 2 weeks or 1 week. So people they bought an Oculus, they started sending us designs, and within a week they had a design that they asked us to print and they put it on their foot, and it might not have been the best performing shoe in the early days, but like after 1 or 2 iterations, it was actually a good shoe, and that is huge. And now really it's once you know how to make a great shoe in one of those 3D modeling programs, I think you own the world of footwear in the future. Like you can build your brand, you can build a collection, you can build so much. Like what I love, for example, this is why I went somewhere else. Like I just love that. I don't know, Joey, for example, like he made those in Gravity Sketch. I love that. Like, and they have different textures. Like I don't know how you would do this, like mesh and closed shell intersections, like in a traditional way. That would be super complex to make. Probably cost millions in upfronts. And like here Joey is, and he just pushes out shoes all day. I think that's sick.
Joey, hello if you're joining us. And yeah, well, that's connected to what Matt was like, in a way. Matt, you just explained a bit of the history of footwear, right? And how it's changed throughout the history, and how, like first we try to make them look like the previous versions, and then little by little we start adapting, and then, the new thing comes. But it's always been designers kind of like figuring out how the new methods work in some way, but also always working with with multiple other people, and sometimes there's kind of like a bit of a black box in the process. Obviously there's a lot of connection with the people doing the tooling and like the manufacturing and so on, but it's always been a little bit disconnected, or too many people in the process. Right now we're seeing a moment in time where designers get to actually be in the process of making the shoes happen. Like there's this breakthrough happening, but it's kind of like a tricky one in a way, because we spoke about, tools getting easier, like, modeling tools getting easier, Gravity Sketch Blender, like all the different ones. There's many like really amazing ones, but still there's something that we need to kind of like figure out how to keep pushing. And Cornelius, maybe that's something on your side to flesh it out a little bit more on, how should designers actually be designing better shoes that are more interesting. I think we're just seeing the surface of, like how even interacting with the structures of the shoe, so that, like we can get them to feel different, and be more functional and so on. But I think there's this thing that is happening that is so interesting, and also very hard to actually get designers to think differently. But it's just designers being connected with the process in such a close way.
Yes, for sure. There's also too, and historically speaking, a lot of the big shifts in footwear in tech in footwear has come separated from the designers. Oftentimes, the developers are working on the materials, or the developers are working on a new kind of technology and strategy. Then the designers get handed this new thing, and they need to implement it into their footwear line. Often, so there's often been a disconnect between the two. What I think is really cool with the 3D printing process and the tools of Gravity Sketch is that here the designer is, and you don't have the gap between the designer and the developer. The designer can go straight from idea to sketch to print, and it's fewer layers in between, fewer things that can get lost in translation, and it's closer between the idea to the actual product.
But then how do we get to actually, because that is being solved, right, in some way. But then how do we get people to start loving the look of the new way of shoes? Is it only a matter of time? Is there something that we can do to get there? What do you think? This is all like probably things that in your head, Cornelius, you have constantly,
I think personally, I think like there one or two things. You're either going to have a disruptive force that appeals to the market, and part of their message and their brand is the 3D shoe, and that breaks it through. The other way that I see that might work towards market adoption more rapidly is an established player being more forward with a 3D printed product. We've seen throughout time that there are a lot of times people have concepts, and they're in the market, but it takes that catalyst for consideration by the market to then adopt. We saw that with EVA shoes, and we had EVA foam shoes for quite a while, Crocs in the early 2000s, right? But they were not seen as cool. Kanye West makes an EVA foam runner, and all of a sudden now people are very open to the idea of EVA shoes, to the point that Crocs are fashionable for teenagers. That wouldn't have happened without Kanye West. He was that catalyst for the market to consider it. I think the same thing will need to happen for 3D. It'll either be some forward-thinking designer, or a bigger brand that pushes forward a project that is to the market 3D and helps educate the market about 3D printed shoes and why they're different.
Yeah, I would fully double click on what Matt said, because we see lots of different growth stages of our orders. Really is as soon as some way of validation happens, it's either like a person or like a brand joining. Like, for example, when we did the shoes with Louis Vuitton, that was a huge catalyst for us, because all of a sudden like people realized, okay, for example, in our case, our printed shoes can actually be really, really great. And master, like, printed shoes can also master high quality criteria. But also, I like, what I often love talking about is that when the early days of television came around, people did not know what to do with that new type of medium. People did not know what to film. Like, there was this new medium, but like, all the people could think of were radio shows at that time. So what they did is they just filmed the radio shows. They did everything similar to what they did before. They just put a camera on it. And like, over time, all of those different like concepts emerged that you can do with film, like game shows, I don't know, like movies, sitcoms, like all of that stuff just needed time to emerge, so that some people could say, hey, I have a weird idea, let's try this, let's try this. And I think the same will happen to footwear. So in the early days, I was always, how can I say, I was often feeling offended when someone said, hey, can we print like an Air Force One? Can we print something that looks like a Jordan? And I was like, of course we can print like something that looks like a Jordan, but like, we can do so much more. We should do like that stuff that is unlocked by that technology, not what we already know and can already do some like in another way. So I was often offended, but over time I realized, well, it just needs time for people to understand it, for people to get comfortable with it. And now, knowing that people filmed radio shows only in the beginning, when like, that made me much more calm. So of course I still appreciate everybody that is trying to push the boundaries, and every single time someone is pushing the boundaries, I think we go a step further. And I like, yeah, I can't wait for this to just take its course, because I'm very confident like it will take its course, and those new silhouettes will emerge that we don't know yet. And I just love being part of that, of seeing that and being in it.
And you guys are like saying some really interesting things. Like Matt, you said that some shoes end up becoming, being adopted and accepted by people because somebody was just like brave enough, or like visionary enough to just put it forward. Usually a big brand, a person that everybody looks up to, and so on. But in a way, Cornelius, you're also saying that right now we're starting to see, with 3D printing, we could see a way of people having shoes that are a little bit more personalized. And Matt, I remember when we had our like some of our conversations some weeks ago, you were talking about like personalization of the shoes and so on, and that there's so much opportunity there. And so it's really, I wonder how those two are going to mix, because right now, Matt, what you just said about this like big personality showing a shoe and then everybody follows, is like everybody following the same shoe, the same kind of thing, and we're all always kind of like, everybody does that, versus starting to see things break up a little bit and become more community oriented and become a little bit more niche. Do you see things going more to that direction, or are we always going to follow kind of like someone big?
What's needed to scale the individualization is the infrastructure that will be funded by the mass adoption. The mass adoption of something helps fund the ability for personalization. Nike has Nike ID, where you can make some personalization. You would have never had Nike ID if you didn't have 5 million pairs of the white and navy Monarch selling every year. So it's like they kind of need both to live optimally. Is the way that I see it. I think that personalization will be there. I think the first is get people over the hurdle first to see the product, and then it's like once they experience it and they can hear, like, you're always going to have some early adopters. You already have people now who know this, that know that the personalization is here, and they're taking advantage of it with Zellerfeld. But I think as the masses get the product and they hear, oh wait, I could get this personalized, not just have my name on it, but have it fit my footbed or have it fit my foot better, like, perfect. And I think that it becomes a very like easy thing to transition people to.
Yeah, I would agree. And also what, like, I thought about it a lot, and I also believe that will come naturally, obviously. But like, for example, when we needed to decide for Zellerfeld, okay, what do we focus more on now? Do we focus now more on investing our time and efforts and resources as well into making easier tools for designers to, for example, upload the design or like have it instantly checked, or if we should focus more on like really nailing custom fit, for example. Like, we what we realized is that also the hurdle of like, once you, like, when you have to decide, do I go for rather like more designs is more important or more custom fit is more important, we definitely choose the more designs option, because the more custom fit is actually also way harder. Like, once you, like, for example, if we were to be like, oh, we do the full custom fit, we do like that is so hard to do. On the one hand, in footwear, fit is very subjective. Like, you can ask 100 people on the street, everybody says, oh yeah, my shoes that I wear right now fit perfectly. And when you look at it, you will realize some people have two sizes too small, some people wear two sizes too big. But just because they over time they got used to that very loose fit or that very tight fit, they think that fits. So that is, first of all, a very, very difficult thing to like to crack. But then also, um like, very quickly you come into an area where it's like, oh yeah, my dad has this big bunion, like, can you now change the design just for this? And like, you will all of a sudden come into so many unscalable uh, 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 things that you have to solve for, if you really build your product just for like basically custom fit first. And that was like something really hard that we had to decide, so that now we make uh, now we focus on like making lots of designs workable first. And in the meantime, we also try to give everyone the best fit by scanning their feet, but it's basically more like a good first guess. But I'm so certain, once scale is there, once resources are there, I think it will be the biggest, like, unlocking of like printed shoes. Because, like, we often talk about this here, how do we get printed shoes on every foot in the world? And one of my footwear design mentors, so to speak, often said, people buy shoes, they pick up a shoe in a store when they like the design, but they only buy it when they like the comfort and the fit. This is what's gonna make them wear it every single day, if they like the comfort and the fit. And so design is the first choice for people to buy them. But then, for it to be a daily shoe, it needs to be the most comfortable shoe of them. And I totally agree. And I think 3D printing has the biggest potential there. But also, knowing lots of solutions, it's not there yet. But once it's there, I believe it will be. I believe 3D printed footwear will be that hero product that will get also like that will show everyone on earth that 3D printing can be a cool technology and actually makes our life better, because everybody will have shoes on their feet that they will say, wow, they fit so much better than any other shoe I had. And then they'll be like, man, I also want to have a printer at home. And I can't wait. It might take 10 years, I don't know, but like, I can't wait for this day to happen.
And I think there's also too another thing that we haven't brought up about with what 3D printing adds to footwear, which is a extreme disruption in the current supply chain that we have right now. The current structure that we have depends on questionable labor practices and conditions halfway around the globe. On one hand, companies are talking very much about their global footprint while also shipping shoes from, 10,000 miles away every single pair. I think that, this is another thing that 3D printing has to offer, that shoes can be made faster with less waste and as close to the customer as possible.
Yeah, definitely. So what's the plan there, Cornelius? And how do you see this evolving? Because Matt, you're touching a really important point. Not only in like, sorry, how like all these shoes being shipped and so on, but even the design process, right? Like, which is the one that I am closest to, is it's super unsustainable, right? Like all these samples, all these flying around the world, all these different things that need to happen. Like basically, shoes are not the most sustainable thing in the world right now, and 3D printing has the opportunity to solve this at a certain level. So, I remember, Cornelius, you were saying that, the dream is to have a printer everywhere in the world. Is that a printer in every house, or is that a printer in a Zellerfeld farm in every city in the world? What's the
I
thing?
have no idea, Daniela. I guess we will have to figure it out. I love the idea that Star Trek promised us with the replicator. Like that is still what motivates me a lot. But like even if the future was just copy shops or like whatever, like I love the idea of near Met in Austin to be like a farm, and I don't know, in Australia, and like no matter where you are, just the shoe that you want is being produced on demand. And it's like, what I love is that you don't even need to have it in inventory. You don't even have to make purchase decisions in quantities 12 months in advance. All of that falls away. I love the thought of like, just wherever you are on earth, no matter if it's in like really in the middle of nowhere, you just need to be connected to the internet. You have millions of designs, and then you get whatever you want. And because it's just a data file on the server, you just download it on the spot. In the best case, it might just take a couple of minutes in the future, not like a day or so. And then you just have it. And like once, like obviously another great thing with at least the technology that we use, then once Matt is finished with wearing his shoe, is like he can just take it back, like give it back, and we grind up the material and we use it for the next shoe, because it's just one material and not like 30 different materials, which you also like, which is great afterlife, but it's also great before like production. Because right now, imagine you have like a sneaker and you have like some metal rings for the laces, then you need the laces, then you need this, then you really need so many different materials. All the logistics to, first of all, have all those parts, have all those materials to start production, like it's getting so much more streamlined, and that is what like where I believe 3D printed footwear will absolutely crush and dominate in the long run. Because like it will make things so much easier, which in the end will make it cheaper.
All right, let's change gears a little bit and talk about the actual design of the shoes and 3D printed shoes, right? And so we all know shoes. We all know that, you were talking about like shoes fitting perfectly, and that's why you love a certain pair of shoes. Right now, Zellerfeld is opening the door to everyone creating shoes, right? Designing shoes. And Matt, we spoke about like, the all the pipeline, everybody that needs to get involved in actually getting a shoe made, which a lot of these people are quite important as well. Like they get to figure out if like the shoe is actually going to be a good fit or not, and so on. And so now we're talking about like changing the whole thing and like, putting it on its head. How are these shoes now being designed? Like somebody designs the shoe, and then how do they make sure that they're like the right fit, that they're comfortable? How do they make sure that they're going to last for a while?
Yeah, so
We have a lot of designers right now that are probably like wanting to figure all of these things out so that they can actually end up making a shoe themselves.
for sure. Right now, how it works at Zellerfeld is that we have like a Discord channel, and then we have what we call auto checks. And auto checks means like on Discord, you just upload your design file. So first of all, we have some guidelines which basically tell you, okay, the wall thickness needs to be this, and the height of the sole needs to be this and that, and blah blah blah. And then you upload. We have like a template. You upload it in, and then within half a minute it gets checked, and you get instant feedback. So if it's printable and functional, and if there's one check that isn't working, we tell you, hey, you need to rework this part, for example. And with this, like it's basically if you're committed to the process, like you will figure it out. And this is how it works right now. And then like every day we here at Zellerfeld, we just automatically those, like if you basically order, then like in another system which we call Zellerfeld Studio, like if you then order a sample, you can have that like ordered. And really, like for samples, we have like a special line in our production which basically ensure now that after 2 weeks of sending that design and ordering a sample, you have that on your doorstep. So it literally starts printing right away when you order it. And because we always have some capacity just free for that. And this way, like what usually takes months and often hundreds of thousands of dollars, that sampling process is now quick, easy, and delightful. It's like uploading a video to YouTube, where basically you get lots of checks in between. And that is what we are really, really proud of, because really, like right now we have 73 models online, but like we already have like hundreds in the pipeline, which we are rolling out over the next months. Yeah.
Well, that helps a lot to designers, because otherwise,
And my big hope is that with lots of designs launching, and knowing that Matt is in love with shoes as much as I am, I just hope that this way the stories on Nice Kicks, on like basically it gets, all of this gets more interesting, because it will be not just another Jordan in another colorway. It will be basically new stories, like new new silhouettes, like new influences. As Matt said, it needs often like this one person that first validates like one specific thing. Like I think we will have not one person like Kanye West, who was given the great freedom by Adidas back in the day to date whatever he wants. And like when you look at the market, no one else has this right, like in a bigger space. Only Kanye was able to do like whatever he wants. But now everyone has that. So what I hope is that it's not just a Kanye West who basically is able to tell new stories and excites the community. No, millions of people have that freedom to now build new stories. And oh damn, I can't wait for this.
To add to what Cornelius is saying, the stories sell. And like you alluded to with a Jordan 1, or an existing model, oftentimes the colorway is the story. Oh, this color represents this, or this designer collaborated with them and did this color or did this material to tell this story. With this, individual designers having Gravity Sketch at their fingertips, those designers are the story. Like they're part of the story. And I think like we've already seen it in some trends, already in footwear and other things, where first it was athletes influence, then it was entertainers that influence. Now we're at the point where actual designers are the influencers. Like, we saw like Virgil Abloh. I really feel like he was that first person who was kind of like the Michael Jordan or Kanye West from the standpoint of he was the designer who was the star. So it didn't really, people followed him. It wasn't just his products or the brands he was creating for. He's creating for multiple brands at the same time. Salehi Bembury is another example of a designer where he has designed so many different kinds of products for all ranges of different brands. And he has a following of people who like him as a designer and an artist. I think the very same thing is going to happen with this, where people are using Gravity Sketch and creating their shoes and bringing in the audience with them as they show their journey of creating and sketching, and they will have buy-in from their followers with that.
That's an amazing moment to be living as a designer. It even gave me the chills, because designers are always like, they've always been in the background, right? Like they've always been the actual stars of the game, right? Like they've always been the ones that are actually creating the products, but you never see them, right? You never hear their stories. You never hear the why. And what you're saying, Matt, is now that's happening, which is, it's amazing, right? Like it's the first time that we're seeing it, and hopefully what you're saying, Matt, ends up happening. Really empowering, tools like Gravity Sketch, tools like being able to print in Zellerfeld, like just being able to just express yourself and put things out there without necessarily having to have a massive machinery, like, in the background. um and so I would love to open the door for a few. I have so many more questions, but I do want to open the door for like questions from the audience before we bring our Q&A guests. And so here we go. Let's hear from Jason Kennedy. Do you have any plans to add tech to the shows, LED, step trackers, etc.? That area seems like the next step in shoes. How about find my dang shoes?
I mean, I think that anything is possible. I think from a manufacturing perspective, anytime you add complexity. That would be my first initial reaction. But I mean, why not? It's definitely a possible thing. It gets complicated with the concept of monomaterial, but I could see that people could design spots like where you could put an AirTag in your shoe. You could design your child slide to have a slot where that you could slide one in, no problem, or slide a space where you would then put in an external unit like LED.
Yep. Also, yeah, Matt is absolutely right. We even have like, for example, in our process, we have like a tool changing system where you can literally you can put things in while printing. It's not being used right now because right now we have so many other issues, which is mostly concerned on scaling. But in the future, for sure, there are even ways where people are printing antennas and like Wi-Fi antennas and stuff like that. And yeah, like for sure, there will be more tech implemented. 3D printers can be more than just printers. They can be like automated production machines if you use them right. Yeah, for sure.
All right, this is from Jane. Well, it feels like Jason loses his shoes quite a bit. So hopefully he would solve that at some point. Jane Schaefer, what about the limitations of the compound materials you can print with?
Right now, I would say, so in our case, it's like all TPU based for now. The great thing is that, which is basically it's basically a flexible like plastic that you can, by heating it up, you can bring it in shape. That's also why it's recyclable. You can just melt it down and bring it into a new shape. Right now, I wouldn't say there are too many limitations, but that's probably also because I'm too much into it. I would love to hear Matt's opinion on it. But obviously, a big, like, it is a challenge. Like, our goal is to achieve with one material that traditional sneakers achieve with 30 different materials, right? Like they have like a very abrasive resistant outsole, and then they have like a very soft upper around the ankles, for example. And like they have the advantage, which is kind of what we're like, in our eyes it's maybe more like cheating. They have the advantage of like just using different materials all the time, but like that adds the complexity, that adds the complexity in the afterlife. Like we are really committed because we want to keep recyclability and stuff very high. So of like that means that, having said, like, although we can play with densities and structures, we can get those flexible materials still quite stiff, but we will never be able to make them as stiff as a carbon fiber plate, for example. And that is a thing that we will need to change or like figure out in the future, because I would still love at some point for Gravity Sketch designers to hand in, I don't know, high heels or whatever, like and then you need like a really stiff and forced heel and like maybe a sock like or leather like upper. But we are not here that there yet. Yeah, I think the time will solve that, as it's also not just Zellerfeld pushing 3D printing. There are also like countless of other material companies and printer companies. For sure it will happen, but right now it's like mostly, I would say mostly like sneaker-like materials, flexible materials, synthetics, that that govern it. But I would love to hear Matt's opinion on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the having additional materials could present some options and some opportunities of ways the shoes could be. But to go back to like what Cornelius said, the issue, whenever you have different materials, you now have a place they're going to have to meet, and wherever they meet, you're going to have something that's going to, you know, like lose connection in some way. And it's to make up for that in traditional sense, you've usually had to use adhesives and glues. So if the goal is to try to get away from adhesives and glues, it's, you know, it's going to be really hard to involve many different materials. I think that finding a way to make some product of monomaterial and achieve what you're looking for is the best route to take. Like if there's ways to print in certain ways to give you greater durability or to give you greater density and support without having to have a multi-density midsole as an example, that's the better route to take. But yeah, I do concede there are some things that just are going to be impossible. Like Cornelius said, you're never going to get a carbon plate, you know, kind of thing in a shoe from the same material you print a soft upper.
Cool. I have so many questions here, guys. You're just like, yeah, you're smashing it. I'm just trying to figure out which one is a good one in your opinion. How do you feel it? Okay, that one is a good one. Your opinion, how do you believe engineers and designers could break the gap into making a better community? I love these faces because it's a question that I think everybody has in the design industry.
So I think that starting with designing and building around the North Star, I think so often designers and engineers, we get stuck thinking about the project and designing for the project. Take one or two steps back and say, why are we doing this? What are we trying to get towards? Establish that, then go back to working together on the project and thinking about how this gets us that much closer to where we want to ultimately go. It's so easy to do project by projects, trying to optimize for project, and losing sight of where we all are wanting to work towards. And I think that will actually bring engineers and designers and other members of the team together better for collaboration.
Yeah, communication is key, and just doing it from the very beginning.
Yeah,
I don't have much to add.
That's fine.
But I really love the answer, Matt.
Yeah. So I'm going to read one of Tom Humphrey's questions. Hey Tom, once again.
Hey Tom.
He's really pushing. He has like 3 questions around like colors. So I'll read one of them. When will the problem of different color filaments printing correctly be gone? So we can print more. So more colors will be available on the market as well as multicolors from screen printing.
Yeah. So right now, as I said earlier, like you always, like for us as a startup, we have to choose our battles very wisely. And right now the battle is Tom still hasn't received his shoes. And that is basically what we're working most of the time on. I mean, like we are printing shoes every single day, of course, and we ship them out every single day. But at the end, as long as the issue is, how can I say, is not in. Right now, we can still sell more than we can produce, so to speak. And as long as that's the case, like I think we need to be ruthless and honest to us. And although I'm the biggest proponent of making the product cooler, um, like 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 we are failing, not in terms of the product is not good enough when we are selling enough, and like when we have repeat purchases. No, we are failing in like the product. Part of the product is also the delivery. However, um, we have solutions for that, and I don't know if I showed that to you, Tom, before, but we very early in the process we made a very conscious decision to go on like a system in a 3D printer that basically lets you print with different materials and like lets you add different tools to it. And what I'm really excited about it is I know Matt has seen this before, but like now you can put basically inkjet printers into your 3D printer. So after every layer of material deposition, you can paint the layer basically. And I believe that will be a huge breakthrough in footwear, because it will mean that, yeah, like right now, you have to imagine if you want to have like a Jordan in a Chicago colorway, like you need black leather, you need red leather, you need all like you need to have all of that prepared. And then when you want to have a swoosh on your shoe, like that needs to in a different color, it needs to be out of a different leather, like that is tanned and dyed differently. But here all of a sudden you can have millions of colors, and like you don't even have to worry about like several like I don't know, like all the supply chain and stuff. So that will come. Then Tom, you can put your like I would love to have a shoe that has your face on it. Like I would love to see wild shit happening, and it's definitely going to come. Um, and obviously we have parts of it at least figured out so far. But right now it's not our main focus, as right now our biggest issue is consumers are complaining that the shoes take too long. So that is what I'm focused on right now. And as soon as I can deliver faster than people can order, then you can be certain we're gonna roll this out.
Cool. Well, there you go, Tom, and everybody else that was wondering about colors. And so now I would love to welcome our guest speakers to join us for a few more questions. So, Bor and Brittany, welcome to the session.
Hi guys.
Hello.
So I'll let you guys just get going. Yeah, Bor, go for it.
Yeah, so nice to hear the conversations, and great what you guys are doing. It's super excited to see somebody spearheading an industry, and also especially an industry that, of course, had so much eyes on them in the last decade. Well, a little bit more than a decade. I think in 2010, like the footwear industry really started changing. Also, innovation wise, with first knit getting introduced, and really changing it up, and now is a new material and a new production facility, also like 3D printing, that really came out of the hype loop of way before, because I remember 3D printing more as the hype loop. Everybody had ideas, but nobody was able to print, and now it really is there. And that's, I think, amazing to see. But I had loads of questions. I was listening with a lot of attention to your conversation, and it is, of course, also like for me, and I'm not gonna like dive into what I do, but it is like how a sort of the supply chain is set up is also, I'm very much curious, how can we use all the good things? Because Cornelius, you really much pointed out, accessibility is not there. There's little accessibility in the old supply chain, but it doesn't mean that there's not great innovations, and that I find super interesting. As like, how can the old industry learn from the setup of a future industry? Because I don't believe that all innovations are bad that are in the old industry. I don't believe that 3D printing is better than all of it out there. functionally and material technically, and how it is on the skin, and what it does for the planet, raw material wise, and go on and go on. But it is interesting how it changes a mindset and how it gives access. And how do you see that on like for yourself?
Yeah, I'll jump on this one. I think that 3D's best place in footwear is an incremental addition to the space. I think that they're, like you touched on a really key thing. The existing structure is able to make certain shoes that 3D can't make, and some that are just going to be better at certain functions. I think of it as a way to, as we see this comfort casual category continue to grow, this is one where I think 3D actually helps that space and allows it to develop better than just traditional mass manufacturing.
Yeah, and besides that, Borre, I would love to show you some shoes. I think we need to figure out the accessibility to it because they are better.
Oh, yeah, I believe in certain ways they probably are good, and of course it's your world, and that's where you look at which things are the best. But it's like I'm more also looking at it from a perspective. I don't think the world needs more shoes, like for real. Like I think there is a lot.
For sure.
Will we buy more? Yes.
It needs less shoes, but that means we need to like basically change the system, because right now the traditional system is what overproduces shoes. This is the system that produces exactly the amount that is needed. To me it's really hard to, because like as you were asking that question, I was thinking about, hey, should we just print maybe components? And yeah, like you could do that, but at the end of the day the system is broken in my view. And it's not like for example, theoretically you could also in the traditional way just produce what is needed, but it would be just so incredibly expensive that economically it wouldn't be feasible. And I think this is where the tech makes this disruptional leap that is needed in new technologies, where basically every shoe costs the same no matter how many you produce, so you're not even inclined and incentivized to produce millions of pairs in the first place, that you then have to either discount or burn. I really believe we have come to an amazing point in the old system. And like when you look at innovations, like you often have those S curves, right? At some, like for quite some time when a new technology comes, it's worse than the other tech. But at some, like, since the growth is much higher, at some point it's going to overtake it. And I think we are in that phase right now, and where 3D printing is definitely worse is the output that you can achieve. But that is going to change. And and what I truly believe in is that, like, the way traditional footwear, like where it is right now, it's optimized. Like it has come to a point where I don't know if it can be much better. That's old system. So what we are trying to do here at Zellerfeld is to trying to offer an alternative system. Obviously we invest lots of effort, time, sleepless nights, money into proving the world that this alternative system can actually in the long term be better. And I would love to invite you to send me your size and address. I would love to prove you that they actually can be like super sick and like really shoes that you don't want to take off anymore.
I truly believe that, though. I have a lot more questions, but I will. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I would take Cornelius up for that and really send him your sushi.
I still owe Matt some pairs. Like I just figured out I totally forgot to send them, but like I still need to send them. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Brittany, do you have a question? Because otherwise, I have another one. All right, there's no problem.
Oh no, I definitely have some questions. I'll just ask one. It's kind of long-winded, but I'll just take a second to introduce myself to the panel and to the audience. My name's Brittany Peroni. I have a degree in industrial design. I discovered design through my high school pole vault coach, Toby Hatfield. I grew up in Lake Oswego, Oregon, and at 17 years old, he took me to the Nike campus where he worked and showed me design. And he was like, "Oh, you know, I know you want to be an architect, but I think you would like design." And I was like, "I can't believe that you can get paid to draw shoes and work with athletes. This is insane." And him and his brother are pretty high profile employees at Nike. And so the space that they took me to was kind of overwhelming and not maybe something that the average person is going to see every day. And so that mesmerized me. And they introduced me to another mentor of mine, Aaron Cooper, who has designed a lot of the legacy, footwear styles that we know. And he ended up mentoring me all through college. And then I went on to be a footwear designer myself at Nike, which was obviously the dream job. And then I subsequently was recruited to Fear of God, where I was Jerry Lorenzo's first in-house footwear designer, and then have gone on to do other projects. And from working with both of these companies and specifically this personnel, contextually, right, our world, we've gone from like having limited access to people like George Clooney and Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie and these like, people in entertainment to now having access to kind of anybody and everybody on social media, and these brands going, we were kind of told like this is what was cool and this is what was special because there was a high barrier to entry into, entertainment, fashion, and sports. Same thing with Michael Jordan, Derek Jeter, so all the Serena Williams, all these kind of legacy athletes that have franchises built around them. It made storytelling profound because we were all told that this is what you need to pay attention to. We all have this kind of connection point to these brands and to these specific shoes, like an Air Force One, a Jordan 1. And so my question to both of you is, as the industry, both in entertainment, in fashion, and in sports, as we've translated from kind of being told through storytelling and, this high barrier of entry, really, we didn't have social media. You had to buy a billboard before, or you had to, figure out how to run an ad in the newspaper. Now we're all building our own brands as individuals just by having an Instagram. As we get more and more tools like Gravity Sketch, and you mentioned Salehi and these other people, and I love that designers we're starting to get a little bit more recognition. God bless Virgil Abloh for kind of bringing us out from behind the curtain. What do you think that's going to do to the industry? Because while being prolific is phenomenal, and we're getting this push to this kind of fringe of, I've seen the Zellerfeld shoes and different designs that have been highlighted by this group. There's kind of a two-part question to this. What do you think it's going to do in terms of storytelling and creating like this hallmark, but then also, there's kind of limitations, right, around performance and like Anthony Edwards, for example, just had this massive shoe. I think this has like been the first shoe that we're all been like, oh, okay, this is an icon. We're going to remember this for time. We have yet to really see, besides like a Jordan 1, you're not going to wear, I don't think anybody's going to wear the Anthony Edwards to the club. You're only really going to wear those on the court. So what is the prolificness of the generation that we're in now going to do to storytelling is the first part of the question. And then the second part is, how do you see the industry kind of you know, we've pushed so far in tech that we're kind of losing a little bit of like the soul and I would also say the swag. And I noticed that working with Jerry, that was something we really pushed, was like, this needs to be able to be worn off court with like denim and still be super fly and not look like, you know, like it is just meant just for high performance. So long-winded question, a lot of context, but it's something that I see is kind of important. And I'm very curious what both of your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like what you talked about there in terms of product that's designed for performance having a hard time translating to casual wear. That's been a problem for quite a while.
Yeah.
I first saw this happening to tennis shoes in the mid 90s when I think it was, I mean, really probably past 93, 94. Actually, give it the flare maybe. You didn't have many shoes of the latter part of Agassi's career that you could wear casually. Yet the early part of his career, those things were like made to be worn to make noise on the court and off.
Yeah.
And part of it has to do with the materials. You know, as engineering gets better into ways that were not leather, that did lose a lot of favorability for a lot of athletic shoes.
Yeah.
Especially when they were like super synthetic. So I think like that is part of like an inevitable thing to go on there. I mean, honestly, I don't know of a performance product past the Foamposite 1997 in terms of performance basketball shoe that really carries a lot of swag off court.
Yeah.
So I think that is one unfortunate thing in that regard. But to also touch on what you talked about with independent designers, I do think that designers definitely now more than ever have the ability to build following and build a brand. I think the thing that we hadn't seen yet is the ability to go from design to execution without a manufacturing partner. That was a big hurdle for many to overcome. And then I think also too, like something that, and this is in no way holding back designers, this is just something that designers are going to have to consider going forward, is that part of the storytelling is kind of treating themselves as a marketing or having a marketing angle to them on social media. I think of like tools like Zellerfeld for footwear designers are similar to the screen printing process for graphic designers or logo designers in the 90s and early 2000s. And to a great example of a brand that was built from that was like an independent design initially into a big brand. I think of Bobby and the Hundreds, where Bobby took his sketches and his ideas, but the reason why he was able to build the brand was he put himself out there. Yes, so he marketed himself, but he also had the infrastructure of kind of like a dedicated marketing approach that was always on to make sure that these stories were constantly being told. So I think that's something that is the huge area of opportunity for independent designers.
Thank you so much, Cornelius, Matt, Brittany, and Bor. See you later. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Thank you.